Now, chances are, if you're quite new to Unity and just did your first few tutorials, that you learned that you can access other scripts by creating a public variable for them and then drag and dropping those scripts into these public variables in the inspector. This is what greenhorns do, okay? I mean, you can do this, it's fine, but it comes at a quite heavy cost, and chances are you're going to screw up your project if you're not very careful and think about a few things. Now, the Singleton design pattern helps a little bit on this way. So, for example, one of the problems is if you rename the variable, all the references that you dragged in are lost, and that's a death sentence if you're in a big project, you know. That's very, very bad. And I mean, renaming variables, I do it rather often. I mean, not on a daily basis, but I tend to refactor my code. And sometimes I need to rename my variables. And if this breaks my whole game, that's not a good thing. You can live with it if it's a super simple game. But if you have, I don't know, 10 levels and you need to set all those references again, you're going to kill yourself, okay? So that's not a good thing. And yeah, drag and dropping hundreds of scripts can also be very, very tedious. So the Singleton design pattern helps a little bit in this aspect. However, I don't want to completely discourage you from using those public variables. They can be quite fine, especially if you're just prototyping, creating simple, small games. Do it, no problem at all. But as soon as you scale a little bit up and work maybe a week or 2 weeks on a game, you might want to create a little better solution for this. Now let me just show you what I mean. I created a very simple game where you need to lead a little cat through an immensely complex labyrinth and collect coins on the way. And I created these coins. And I look now into the script and you can see I created a public variable for my score manager. And the score manager, yeah, it just keeps track of the score. It's a very simple example, okay? And if the player then enters this collider or this trigger, we just increase the score of the score manager and we destroy the coin. That's everything. So very straightforward, very simple. Now, do mind, I have nothing set in here. So of course, if I now press play and lead my cat into this, I get errors because it's a null reference. There's nothing set up here. So the easiest way I can fix this is just to drag the score manager in here. And that's what most people learn when they start in Unity. And if I now press play, move over it, it works. But it only works for one single coin. Okay, now I created these as prefabs. So in theory, if I press apply, it should apply the score manager everywhere. But I can press it 5 times. If I look over here, it's not applied. Because these prefabs can't store references to scene objects. They can only reference something from the project, but not from the scene. And this is a huge problem now, because I need a reference to my score manager. And what I now need to do is I need to set the score manager for each coin one by one. Oh, damn it. And you see, it's a very tedious task. It's not very fulfilling. And it's the thing you put your apprentice up to, or yeah, somebody who isn't paid too much. Anyways, that's not a good way to do things. And I know you could also just select multiple of them and drag it in here. That's fine. But now imagine if we don't just have coins, but if we had different coins, or if there are different power-ups, then we might have hundreds of references to this score manager. And that's very tedious. That's not what we like. Now let me show you something else. Maybe I didn't apply the conventions of my company here. So my coding conventions are wrong and I shouldn't use this underscore here. So I rename with Control RR, or you can also right click and press rename. And I don't need this underscore anymore and want to make it this because maybe this is the coding convention of my company. Press enter, save everything, go back to Unity. It compiles everything new. And yep, all my references are gone. Great. Now I have to drag and drop them in again. Amazing, what a fulfilling work. So this is nothing you ever want to do. This wrecks your whole project because this is going to happen quite a lot. Now imagine if you not just have this in one scene, but imagine you have 10 or let's say 15 levels and not just a score manager, but maybe 5 to 10 different managers. And you have to drag and drop every single reference of them. That's tedious. That's nothing we as good programmers want our co-workers to do. So we need to find a solution for this. And this looks like a job for a singleton. Sorry, I just couldn't hold myself back on this slide. So yeah, let's look at the singleton, what it is and why we use it, how we use it, and so on. So let's talk about a few general stuff. First off, it just works a little different in Unity than it works in plain C#. Also, it's a highly debated topic in the community. I already mentioned it. Some people love it, others hate it. We'll talk about this later. And if you're not careful, it can also wreck your code architecture very badly. So try to use them as rarely or as sparsely as possible, but as often as you need them. Like in the example for the labyrinth, for the coins, that's an example where you really might want to use a singleton. Okay. Now, if a class uses the Singleton design pattern, it can only be instantiated once. That's where the name comes from, Singleton. So can only be one instance of this class. And also, these Singleton classes can be accessed much easier from other scripts. So you don't need to create a public variable and drag and drop them in there. You can get access much easier. I'll show you right away then. And that way, the singleton classes are optimal to be used for manager classes. So for most managers, we might want to implement the Singleton design pattern to them. Now, let's look at the code. To access a singleton instance, we just use this line of code. My singleton class dot my instance. That's everything there is. Now let's look at an example. If I want to save the string or the player name for something, I can use it like this. Game manager, this is the name of the class of my singleton, which implements the singleton design pattern. So game manager dot my instance dot player name. And then I use this player name and save it in the X variable. Very easy, nothing complicated here. And you can also use it like for something different. For example, I also have a level timer here, and I just say game manager dot my instance, and then I get the level timer. So the important thing is this is the name of the class, not the instance. This is the name of the class. You can see this on this capital letter here. And this is just a variable that stores the one single instance of this class. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. So instead of having this public variable, which I need to drag and drop, I can just instead use this variable here. So if I would now update this thing, I would delete this here. And instead of this, because now we don't have this variable, I would say score manager dot my instance dot score. Of course, this now doesn't exist. We need to create this. We'll do that right away, don't worry. But that's the thing we have now. And that way we Also don't need to set this reference with drag and drop. Amazing. So in the next video, we still need to lay a little foundation for the Singleton design pattern because we need the static keyword, and that's what we're gonna look at in the next video. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I want to invite you to my course over at Udemy. This course is solely devoted to design patterns in Unity, and there you will gain access to premium quality exercises and examples for these design patterns. Also, I will talk about more specialized and more advanced implementations of these design patterns. So if you press on the link in the description below, you will get a discount on the course. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video.